I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's News Update. Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz has accused the lobby group J Street, which calls itself pro-Israel, pro-peace, of not being pro-Israel at all. In a recent interview with the Times of Israel, Dershowitz said the group is totally undercutting American policy toward Iran. You can't call yourself pro-Israeli, Dershowitz stated, and not want the American military option kept open. Dershowitz cited J Street's website that states that they oppose legislation leading to the use of military force in Iran. J Street's executive director, Jeremy Ben-Ami, responded to Dershowitz, saying it was time for him to stop putting words in J Street's mouth. J Street, Ben-Ami said, supports the president's strategy of strong sanctions and diplomacy in Iran, as well as sharing the president's concern with those beating the drums of war. Ben-Ami said, "We do not accept that it's up to Alan Dershowitz to determine who is in and who is out of the pro-Israel tent." I think it's safe to say, Ben-Ami further added, that a large part of our community is eager for new counsel. Dershowitz recently met with President Obama to discuss the Iran threat, and though he says he does not believe the president or Israel's leaders, for that matter, want to use military force in Iran, he is confident that Obama means it when he says the option is on the table. J Street, Dershowitz said, undercuts the credibility of that Obama position. The Iranians and others think that J Street speaks for Obama. This makes it look as though Obama speaks out of both sides of his mouth, to J Street and to me, Dershowitz said, stressing that J Street has every right to express and lobby for its views, but he said it has no right to mislead people and call itself pro-Israel. The Jerusalem Post reports Israel's Deputy Foreign Minister Dani Ayalon and U.S. Secretary of State William Burns met today in Jerusalem to discuss issues facing the Middle East. The officials met as part of the semi-annual bilateral strategic dialogue and issued a joint press release regarding Iran. In it, both countries stated that they remain determined to prevent Iran from achieving nuclear capabilities and slammed the Iranian regime for its promotion of international terrorism. The two also condemned Syrian President Bashar Assad for the ongoing violence he has inflicted upon his people. The National Jewish Democratic Council released a statement Wednesday in reaction to recent criticism of its petition and calls to Republicans to not accept, quote, tainted money from billionaire Sheldon Adelson, as we reported on Shalom TV this week. In it, NJDC Chair Mark Stanley and President and CEO David A. Harris said that while they stand by their comments about Adelson, which they say were taken from credible news sources, they regret the concern that their campaign caused, adding that in the interest of Shalom Bayit, peace in our home or community, we are going to take down our petition today. Moving forward, we'll continue to work hard to fight against the unique threat posed by the outsized influence of certain individual mega donors, which rightly concerns most Americans and most American Jews. The Anti-Defamation League has criticized a recent billboard campaign for being deliberately misleading and biased. The ADL responded to billboards showing up at several Metro North train stations in Westchester County, New York, sponsored by Henry Clifford, who co-chairs the Anti-Israel Group Committee for Peace in Israel and Palestine. The billboards feature 4 maps of Israel from 1946 to 2010, which the ADL says attempt to showcase the expansion of Israel at the expense of the Palestinians, and that the billboard's message tries to make it seem as if Israel was responsible for Palestinian refugee displacement. ADL New York Regional Director Ron Meyer stated that 4 maps can in no way summarize the complexity of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and said this ad campaign completely ignores the facts, including the history of land ownership prior to 1948, Israel's repeated efforts to exchange land for peace, and the commitment of successive Israeli governments to achieving a 2-state solution with the Palestinians. And lastly, the Episcopal Church held their General Convention Assembly this week in Indianapolis, where they adopted positive resolutions in response to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, calling for a negotiated 2-state solution as well as for positive investment in the region. The American Jewish Committee commended the church for these actions as well as for their decision to table a resolution which called for, quote, corporate engagement and, quote, identifying products, which AJC's Director of Interreligious and Intergroup Relations, Rabbi Noam Marin, says are euphemisms for the boycott and divestment movement. Speaking to Shalom TV, Rabbi Marins, who was an invited guest at the conference, said that by tabling the resolution, the Episcopal Church essentially distanced themselves from demonizing and one-sided judgments that do not further the cause of peace. The Episcopal Church joins the Presbyterian Church USA and the United Methodist Church in recent rejections of the path of divestment from companies doing business with Israel. And that's Shalom TV's News Update. I'm Teisha Bader.